Who is a British science fiction show that started in the 1960s. This show is an integral part of British entertainment. If there is a British actor, there is a high likelihood they have been in at least one episode of Doctor Who. It is about to be the 60th anniversary, and since it's one of my favourite TV shows, I wanted to talk about it. But since there's over 30 seasons of the show, I decided to talk about one of the spin-offs. No, not one of the fan favourites, such as Sarah Jane's Adventures or Torchwood. I don't know why I'm doing a dramatic reveal, like the show isn't in the title and thumbnail. I'm going to be talking about Class. Class is what I consider the only failed Doctor Who spin-off, as it only had one season containing 8 episodes in 2016. The show is set in Coal Hill School / Coal Hill Academy, which is the school the Doctor's granddaughter went to in the first season ever of the show in 1960, and where 3 of the Doctor's companions worked. Those 3 companions being Ian Chesterton, BARBRA WRIGHT, who both travelled with the first Doctor, and more recently, CLARA OSWALD also worked there. I'm going to talk about Class, and we are going to decide if it's deserving title Worst Doctor Who spin-off. Episode 1 starts with this kid dying, then we cut to the next day, where students are talking about it, and one of them says, everyone knows students at the school disappear. They all just pretend it isn't happening. I do wonder how much you have to hate your own child to send them to this school, if this is a known fact. Here we are introduced to 2 of the main cast members, April and Tanya. April is organising the school autumn prom, did not know we did those in the UK, and is trying to get Tanya to help, but she declines because her mum is very strict. We are also informed that Tanya is actually 3 years younger than all of her peers, but she is so smart they moved her up 2 years. April, disappointed by Tanya declining to help her, to try her luck again and asks the new boy Charlie does he want to go to the prom with her. She's taken multiple L's today because he says no, and he's planning to take Matthias. Then they head to class with their really weird teacher. Then we go to the school football match where we are introduced to Ram. He notices a weird shadow moving across the floor, causing him to miss a goal. Then we go back to Tanya, who is walking home upset that she cannot help April. She then notices a shadow following her and flees, but eventually dismisses it, saying she must be imagining things due to the pressure she is under from her mother. Charlie heads home, and the teacher from earlier is there. Her name is Miss Quill, by the way. Charlie asks if Quill has anything to do with the boy that went missing, and she admits to tricking the kid into using a gun. That gun kills not only the target, but also the user, and she used it to kill a shadow creature because she couldn't. Tanya and Ram are on a video call because Tanya is helping him with his studies. And Ram notices a shadow moving around her room, and then it attacks her. Tanya manages to fend it off using lamps and light. Go her. Back at school, April is decorating the hall alone because no one wanted to do it with her, when suddenly a shadow pins her hand to the ground. She manages to get away and turns around to find Miss Quill, who tells her she is in danger. They run. The shot hits the child. 2 crucial pieces of information. 1, April and the creature now share a heart due to the gun not being able to do its job because of Charlie interfering. And 2, that creature is the king of the Shadowkin, and Quill tries to kill the creature, but Charlie forbids her because that would kill April as well, and the Shadow King flees. April, shocked and confused, asks Charlie what's happening, and he tells her he and Quill are from another planet. Charlie is Rodian and Miss Quill is Quill. 2 races had a civil war and the Quill lost, and Miss Quill had an On, which is a space parasite, placed into her head. That parasite made her bound to Charlie, and it also means that she cannot use any weapons. Whilst the Rodian and Quill had their civil war, the Shadow Kin secretly invaded and then killed everyone, even Miss Quill and Charlie, the lone survivors of their race. The only reason they are alive is the Doctor came to rescue them and then left them on Earth to hide from the Shadow King. I feel like only the last part of that picture was important. The audience needed it, I guess. And so no one's confused. The Shadow Kin is the name of the species, and the Shadow King is the name of the leader of the species. I do realise it sounds like I'm saying the same word twice, unless I really enunciate that G. Lucky for you, I subtitled these videos. You're welcome. Immediately after Charlie finishes telling his life story for like 5 minutes, April again starts screaming in pain and tells them she can hear the force of the Shadow King, and he is planning to come back the next day for what Charlie has, which is a cabinet from his home planet. The next day, April randomly warns Tanya about her shadow, and Tanya looks shocked, so April knows that she must have seen something too. After class, she tells Ram and Tanya the truth, and they are both shocked. Then we see them all getting ready for the prom, which is totally going to go well for everyone and end happily ever after. Why would any of you go to prom after finding out shadow creatures are going there? Oh, and Tanya managed to convince her mum to let her go. Don't know why she'd want to do that. They all go to the prom. Charlie, April, and Charlie's date Mateus arrive first. Ram shows up with his girlfriend Rachel. April collapses and tells them the Shadow King are coming. We then see Ram's girlfriend impaled, then turn to dust. Ram starts fighting the Shadow King. April and Tanya try to get everyone out of the hall, but no one is listening to them. They should have just pulled the fire alarm, in my opinion. Charlie and Quill enter with an army of Shadow Kin chasing after them. Then everyone flees. Oh, and Ram gets his leg chopped off. The Shadow King arrives in the room and is about to kill everyone when the Doctor arrives, played by Peter Capaldi, after Quill called him for help. Then the Shadow King reveals they are going to take the Cabinet of Souls, which apparently contains the soul of every dead Radiant and can be turned into a weapon. The Doctor tells Charlie not to use it ever because avenging genocide with genocide is wrong. Then Charlie reveals that the cabinet is empty and the legend about it being a weapon is just a myth. After the Shadow King threatens to conquer the Earth, April threatens to stab herself in the heart, which would kill both of them. The Doctor turns the lights on to get rid of the shadows, but the kids decide to chase after the Shadow King to get April's heart back. The Shadow King grabs April and uses her as a human shield. Suddenly Ram comes in, hits the Shadow King back through the tear in space, which is then closed by the Doctor. Hop all the way there just to hit the guy in the face with a chair. Go him. They all gather around the TARDIS in the hall where the Doctor reveals he did not close the tear in space fully because there's so much Artron energy in Coal Hill Academy due to him constantly eventually not just the Shadow King, and it is their job to stop it. Ram comes out of the TARDIS with the new prosthetic leg, then the Doctor leaves. He leaves them with no weapons, no information, no nothing to actually help them. He just goes, I hope you guys work it out. Like, I know the Doctor doesn't like weapons, but you know who would? I would like weapons if I was in a situation. You're like, oh yeah, you have to go fight all these deadly aliens. You please and thank you will make them go away. It was a decent first episode. It introduced you to all the main characters. It showed you the types of characters that they are, their dynamics with their families. Tanya lives at home with her two brothers and their mum. Ram has his dad and mum. We never see his mum at all. April lives at home with her mum, and Charlie is an orphan prince. There was a lot of information to take in. I'm assuming this is set after Clara left due to how confused the Doctor was looking at the names of the teachers. I think that's all the teachers that have gone missing or died in the school. Saying that because Danny Pink's there, I think it's just all the dead teachers. How many teachers die per year? And they add more names to that. By the end of the season, there are like 10 more names. Why did the Doctor give him a see-through leg? Are you telling me that when they were creating that they couldn't make them skin coloured? Because it's very noticeable that's not a normal prosthetic leg. So when someone notices that, they're gonna, where did you get? Oh, this alien in a blue box gave it to me. He's gonna look insane. When they were trying to get everyone out of the prom, they were struggling and no one was listening to them. Why not just say there are aliens coming? It is 2016. There are enough alien invasions in the universe. Every Christmas, London gets attacked by something. They should be prepared for alien invasions by now. Next to the fire alarm should be an alien attack alarm at this point. One thing that bothers me about Doctor Who Earth is how similar it is to our own. After dozens of alien attacks, you would think that they would have adapted slightly. That year alone, the Zygon showed up and the Earth is covered in trees. But then Doctor Who always had to cop out about erasing humanity's memory, like when the Cybermen and Dalek invaded, but Amy Pond did not remember that at all. Or when the Space Monks took over, and then they erased everything after. But they don't erase all the alien attack, like when the 10th Doctor showed up in the Christmas invasion. Everyone remembers that, but they are suggesting nothing changed after 1/3 of the population was controlled by using their blood. My point is to get an alarm for alien activity. I'm still very confused why the shadows followed Tanya home. She had very little interaction with Charlie at this point, and she was not at school like the other people who were attacked. It just followed her for some reason. I'm assuming for plot purposes, but logically it made no sense. I'm still in shock that the Doctor just left these children in charge of protecting the school. None of the humans have any skills to help them fight off alien invasions, other than spirit, I guess. The Doctor expects them to defend the school with the power of friendship. One point of praise I will give for this show, it is nice to see the antics of the Doctor coming to save the day from an outside perspective. Normally we see everything from the Doctor's perspective. When he swoops in to save the day, we only see that twice in Sarah J's adventures, and the Doctor never appears in Torchwood. So seeing all the hope from the main characters drain from them, then hearing the noise of the TARDIS was nice. Surprises the audience, showing you what it's like to actually live on Doctor Who Earth. The rest of the summaries for each episode will be way shorter than this. The pilot just has a lot of information that I need to throw at you. Episode 2 is set the week after that all happened. They keep describing Ram's girlfriend as missing. We know vaguely where she is. She turned to ash on the school floor, so she stuck to the bottom of everyone's shoes. Charlie also thinks it's weird how no one seems freaked out by the attack last week, and these two just brush him off. Tanya basically says, yeah, kids die to disappear from here all the time. It's not that strange for us. So everyone moves on. How has the school not been shut down? That an alien invasion rolls off everyone's back. After Ram's football practice goes bad because of his new leg, he goes into the changing rooms to talk to his head coach and sees the skinless body of the assistant head coach lying on the floor. Then he hides in the toilet. Ram is having a horrible week. His girlfriend is dead. His foot is gone. And now this. He exits the bathroom and the body and the blood is gone. So he concludes stress is getting to him and he's imagining the whole thing. That happens a lot in this show. They'll see something weird and they'll all just conclude that they've gone crazy instead of, maybe this is actually happening. The next day, Ram is out the back of the school when he sees the cleaner get carried off and killed by some creature. He brings Tanya to the scene of crime, but somehow there's no blood or body, just like last time. And Tanya thinks he's going crazy, which I don't understand why Tanya's acting like Ram is insane when the week before shadow aliens attacked the school and stole your friend's heart, literally. And the doctor said more aliens would come, but Rams said he saw a man skinned alive and saw a cleaner get torn to shreds by some creature, and apparently that is too outlandish. It's actually one of my biggest pet peeves in fantasy and sci-fi shows when one of the characters sees something weird and they tell the others about it, but they all act like they are insane for it. They usually say something stupid like, just because it happened once, what is the likelihood of it happening again? Clearly pretty high, judging by the trail of bodies. Tanya and Ram talk about grief, where she mentions her dad died. During the video call, Ram swore he saw the cleaner get eaten. So Tanya, Charlie and April go to speak to their teacher, ask if any of the cleaners are missing. But they didn't need to ask that information to confirm that, if Ram was crazy or not, because the head teacher is eaten in front of them by said creature. He was the only teacher that was brought to class from Doctor Who. He will be missed. Ram says the creature he saw matches the tattoo he saw on his head coach, and yet again they call him crazy because of his tattoo theory. I would like to remind everyone they were attacked by shadows in a previous episode. They all head to school to see if Ram was right about his tattoo theory, and Tanya asks do they have a plan. Ram says yes. His plan is to confront the teacher with the tattoo that he thinks skins people alive with no weapons at all. That sounds so safe. We find out the dragon roaming the school is the mate of the dragon trapped inside the coach's tattoo, and he won't leave without his mate, so that's why he's going around hunting in the school. Ram suggests to the dragon can talk, by the way, in English. Ram suggests to the dragon that he takes the teacher, skins him alive and makes him into a chair so he can still have his mate. Then the dragon does that and takes the gym teacher. Throughout the whole episode, I just kind of skipped over, but Quill was having someone evaluate her teaching. Turns out that person was a robot sent by something called the governor, and she finds this out when the dragon bit it in half. She also kissed the robot. Anyway, moving on. Episode 3 is set on the 2-year anniversary of Tanya's dad's death, and Tanya walks into her room to see her dead dad. It's actually an alien called the Lankin who claimed to help people with grief. That same creature visits Ram when on FaceTime with April as his dead girlfriend Rachel. Ram sees this and runs. Sensible thing to do. Mateus gets kicked out of his home, and he and Charlie decide to live together. And to celebrate the moving in, they fornicate. Whilst this is happening, downstairs, Quill is visited by the Lankin in the shape of her dead sister, but she does not believe what the creature is saying, which is it only came to give her closure. Ram and April meet up. April tells Ram about how her dad was a folk singer, and he also drove the car off the motorway with her and her mother in the car too, resulting in her mother being paralysed. Two equally important pieces of information, folk singer and attempted murder. Not to be insensitive, but I'm very confused why they chose right now to tell us April's tragic backstory. Like, did we need to know why she has a mixed relationship with folk music? This is not important right now. There's an alien invasion across London, as you can see, using people's dead loved ones to lure them in and take them, which Ram does see. And these two are having a heart-to-heart, and now they are kissing. Look, do this later. London is covered in vines, and these two are making out. These two are fornicating. Someone do something, please. Also, Ram's girlfriend just died. I'm not saying he should mourn for the next 10 years and never move on, but at least give it till the end of the month before you move on. She died like 2 weeks ago. Quill eventually beats up the creature. It admits that it feeds on people's grief and then kills them. The three of them go out to try and destroy the source of the vine. Ram and April notice the biggest vine is leading to Tanya's house. They go to save her. Turns out Tanya had the most grief in London. Did she get an award for that? Apparently she just gets attempted murder. The vine creature needs to feed on her to have enough energy to feed on everyone else. I'll repeat this in a different way so we can understand what the creature is saying. This creature just said that after it gets Tanya, it's going to feed on all the humans, which will eventually kill them. It then, moments later, says, "Take my hand or I will kill your family." Did you not just say you're going to do that anyway? This creature is awful at tempting people. Tanya grabs its hand, but gives it her anger instead of her grief, which poisons it, but not enough to kill it. So Quill runs it over with a bus and kills it, and go her. And then everyone who was covered in the vine forgets everything that just happened, and they move on to the next week. Episode 4. We are now halfway through the show, so leave a like if you enjoy the video so far. They got a new head teacher. No one really questioned where the last one ended up. April starts to develop abilities due to her connection to the Shadow King. Charlie admits to Mateus that he lied about the cabinet being empty. He just didn't want to commit genocide. Plus, there's an old tale that if the cabinet is used correctly, they can put all the souls of Charlie's people into another body. So he didn't want to just use it to murder things. Quill overhears this and is mad Charlie lied, and he refuses to use the cabinet on the Shadow Kin, the ones who murdered both of their people. April's father, who attempted, the one who tried to kill her, shows up randomly, and April almost chopped his head off with her shadow powers. If she did, I would have fought her. They head back to April's house, and some more fornication happens instead of trying to figure out why she is developing shadow powers, and her mother catches them. Miss Quill is brought into the headmistress's office, where she reveals she knows all about the Radiant and the Quill, along with the tear in space and time that are throughout the school. It turns out the headmistress works for the governor, the ones who made the robot from 2 episodes ago. She then tells Quill about the duplicating petals that eats flesh. Right now they are sticking to birds and squirrels, but by the end of the day they think that there'll be enough of them to either eat all the humans alive or suffocate them in a sea of petals. April's failure of the sperm donor goes to the house to tell April's mum what happened, and April attacks him again, and yet again I don't see a problem here. And she almost kills him but decides not to. She then uses her shadow powers to heal her mum, but apparently that allowed the Shadow King to see where she is, because the Shadow King has been unable to get back to Earth because the doctor jumbled up the tear so he couldn't find it again, but now he can. Ram and the others show up. April, in an attempt to stop the Shadow King from coming to her, cuts a hole in the air, creating a portal to the Shadow Realm to go fight the king. Saying all of this sounds so ridiculous. She jumps in the portal and Ram jumps in after her. Why he does that, I don't know. He is a regular human except for the alien prosthetic, but that doesn't give him any special abilities, it's just a foot. I would say I'm rooting for him, but I do not root for stupidity, because that was a stupid thing to do. Episode 5, they are in the Shadow Realm, and April announces she's going to kill the Shadow King. They have been dating for like 2 weeks when Ram decided to jump into a portal for her. I don't want to use the word foolish, but he did also get his leg chopped off for his last girlfriend, so at least he's consistent. Back at Cold Academy, the new headmistress tells Quill she can get the aunt that is controlling her out of her head if she can convince Charlie to use the cabinet on the flowers. Everyone apart from Tanya heads to the school. Tanya goes to tell Ram's dad to be on an alien planet with his new half-human, half-shadow girlfriend. Quill immediately double-crosses the headmistress and tries to convince Charlie to use the cabinet on the Shadow King. The parents argue with each other, blaming each other's kid for the situation when it is neither of their fault. I personally blame a certain Time Lord with a blue box for thinning time and space around the school. Kind of his fault. But guys, it's okay that he did that because he gave Ram a new leg, so that totally makes up for everything else that's going on. April challenges the Shadow King to a duel for the throne and Ram is in the way. I don't know why he followed her. He's being a nuisance. The Shadow King's army try to attack Ram, so April has to defend them both. They figure out that when April fixed her mum, she left some of her shadow magic on Earth. They use it to call out to April. April feels it and then opens the portal. The dads jump in to get their kids. Just as April is about to kill the Shadow King, her dad gives her some speech about murdering people and how it's bad and he should know because he tried. I don't like how they tried to give this man a redemption arc. The man who tried to murder his family. Oh, poor him. He's been through so many trials in his hard and difficult life, such as the trial he was put on for trying to murder his family. Back to the battle. Even though April didn't kill the Shadow King, it is still classed as a win because he surrendered. She's now the new leader of the Shadow People, and she orders them to lock the former Shadow King in a tomb and then they all go home. Back to Charlie and the cabinet. The headmistress is holding Charlie's boyfriend Mateus at gunpoint to make him use the cabinet for the petals. April commands the shadows to destroy the petals and then destroy the pathway to Earth from the Shadow Realm so that they can't get back to her. April then loses her shadow powers, but her mum's leg still works somehow. And it turns out the whole using the cabinet for the flower thing was actually a test by the governor to find out more about Charlie and the cabinet. And the headmistress headmistress still offers to get the Arn out of Quill's head. Oh, and none of the parents pull their children out of school after this insane day. They're like, oh, my kids deal with this every week. Oh well. Episode 6 is the episode where everyone hurts Charlie's feelings. Quill puts all the kids in detention because she has something to do and can't be able to watch them. Almost immediately after she leaves, an asteroid flies into the room through the tear and hits the class. The windows and doors only show black and they cannot leave the room. Mateus picks up the asteroid that flew in and starts saying he is in love with Charlie, but he's also scared of Charlie because he's an alien. They eventually figure out the asteroid is the consciousness of a prisoner, and Tanya suggests that they all pick up the asteroid one by one to ask the prisoner questions so that they can escape. But to get an answer from the prisoner, they have to admit something themselves. Tanya picks it up first and reveals she thinks everyone views her as a little sister instead of a friend because she is 3 years younger than all of them. Rams picks it up and reveals he loves April, and April picks it up and confesses she does not love Ram as much as he loves her. Yeah, that was really awkward. Throughout the entire episode, everyone is getting angrier and angrier due to the prison, except for Charlie. Charlie decides to pick up the asteroid, assuming it won't have the same effect on him because he's radiant. Whilst Charlie is holding onto the asteroid, he comes to the realization he has more guilt in his heart than the prisoner, because to Rhodians, a wish is the same as an action, and he wanted to murder the Shadow King using the cabinet. That seems like a pretty extreme rule for a planet, but okay. He also confesses his love for Mateus. Charlie's guilt overwhelms the asteroid, it breaks, and they are returned back to normal. Just as they are about to leave, the prison tries to take Charlie because the prison still needs a prisoner and he is the guiltiest. Suddenly Quill returns and shoots the rock, which shocks Charlie because she should not be able to use any weapons. I'm pretty sure this was the final episode I watched when it originally aired because I remember nothing past this when I rewatched it. Yet again, none of them request for their parents to remove them from the school. They really should have. Episode 7 is Quill's point of view of the events of episode 6, so we'll find out why she can now use a gun and she has a massive scar down her face. The headmistress told Quill she may be able to get the Arn, the brain controlling parasite, out of her head. A man named Balin arrived. Apparently he's a shapeshifter who pretended to be Zygon, killed some people. He's now a prisoner. The headmistress used a device that is a metaphysical engine that allows you to travel into thoughts and beliefs and make them a physical thing. They use this device to go to Balin's religion's version of hell because Balin's abilities are not working. He needs a drop of the devil equivalent blood to fix it so he can do the surgery on Quill. They then go to the start of Quill's religion and Balin decapitates Quill's goddess so then they can learn Quill anatomy. They have everything they need. They perform surgery, it works. Quill has her free will back. Yay! No more slavery. And a cool new scar she has. Then Balin and Quill fornicate because what else would they do? They leave the hall of the school, they discover it's a fake and the headmistress is gone. And they are actually in the Cabinet of Souls. A hologram of the headmistress appears and tells them that there is only enough energy for one of them to leave, so they have to fight to the death. They gradually fight. Balin ends up with the gun. Turns out it was a trick gun and it shoots the user and not the target, so Balin dies and Quill survives. Quill escapes the cabinet and goes back to the classroom, saves Charlie as we already know. And because time works differently in the cabinet, Quill is now several months pregnant when she gets out. Episode 8, the final episode ever of class. And yet again, a lot happens this episode. Ram's dad and Tanya's mom get killed at the very beginning of the episode by the Shadow King. He's back. Ram goes to cry to April about it and Tanya goes to cry about it to Quill, and for some reason they apparently became close. I think it's because throughout the season Tanya was fighting for Quill's freedom, saying it's slavery what Charlie's doing to her, which it is, but Charlie said it's a just punishment, so that's why I think they're close. Tanya says that she thinks the Shadow King might go after her brothers too. Tanya, distraught about her mother's death, tells Quinn she wants to use the cabinet to kill the Shadow King, and she will help Quill convince Charlie to use it since they both want revenge for their loved ones being murdered by the Shadow King. The Shadow King pops in for a visit and holds April's mum hostage and throws a shadow at Charlie's heart, which April, who is still connected to the Shadow King, informs him that he put a shadow on Charlie's heart just like April's, so if he uses the Cabinet of Souls he will also die, as well as April. Ram has grief-driven outbursts and storms out. He is also still salty about the last episode, which was episode 6 for all of them, where April said she didn't love him as much as he loved her. Bad week for this guy. Tanya goes to school to find her brothers. Just as she arrives, the Shadow King attacks, but Quill saves them. Turns out the experiment that they were doing in the last episode, episode 7, reopened the tear that led from the Shadow Realm to Earth, so that's how the Shadow King got back. Quill starts to teach Tanya to fight so she can defend herself herself and her brothers. You can't really teach someone to fight to a warrior standard within an hour, but they give it a good shot. Everyone's now at school. The Shadow King shows up and holds Matthias hostage as the rest of the Shadow King attack all the humans all over the world. April tells Charlie to shoot her to kill the Shadow King, which he does, kill the Shadow King and April. But Charlie survives even though he's connected to the Shadow King, because he killed the Shadow King. He becomes the Shadow King, so he gets his own powers. Basically, killing the Shadow King gave him ownership over the shadow on his heart, so he's fine. Well, he's fine for now, because Charlie decides to use the cabinet and Tanya and Quill fight off the Shadow King that try to stop him. That must have been one hell of a training session. Charlie releases the souls to kill all members of the Shadow King, including himself, and he is the Shadow King. Just before Murat's soul kills Charlie, Quill saves him and tells him that he has to live with the consequences of the sacrifice. He can't just duck out. The body of the Shadow King then rises, but April's voice comes out of it, and end of the show. Since the show finished on a cliffhanger in 2018, a series of 6 audio adventures were made to finish off the story, thus concluding this Doctor Who spin-off. This was the last Doctor Who spin-off that was made, but they are currently making new ones. As of recording this, Tales of the TARDIS just came out. I also just wanted to comment on, this was April walking to go sacrifice herself. It just made me laugh. And here's some thoughts I had whilst watching the show, but didn't fit anywhere earlier on. Something else I want to talk about in this show is how weird the relationships are. The relationships in this show seem very rushed. I'm personally a lover of a slow burn. I understand nowadays why TV shows don't do that, because most TV shows do get picked up after season 1, but this was made in 2016. It's a spin-off of a show that at this point was over 50 years old. You could have done a slow burn. Matthias and Charlie got together in episode 2 and moved in together. They barely knew each other. And it's not like at any point it was, oh, a time skip. We know how long. This show was over the course of like a month and a half from beginning to end. All these people just got together really quickly. There was no time to get actually invested in any of these relationships. Then we had April and Ram, who yet again got together really quickly. Ram had his girlfriend died and within 2 weeks was dating April. There is no pacing for the relationships here. And then by like 3 episodes later, he's like, this is the love of my life. Huh? What do you mean? Do you know her middle name? What is her favourite colour? Only thing these two have done, talk about like maybe their families a bit. She has not met Ram's mum. They haven't properly known each other, and he's like, I will die for you. Sir? That is weird. Then we have Quill and this dude, I can't remember his name right now, and I don't need to remember his name. He's in one episode and he dies immediately. I get that romances help audiences become invested in shows, but not when they're all poorly done. I realistically cared about none of these couples at all. I didn't care about any of these characters. They are so boring. All of them. Some of them are slightly more interesting. Quill is the best character in this show. Without question, she's useful. I feel like the show maybe should have been more episodes, because Doctor Who doesn't tend to have a lot of episodes in New Who, but Class needed more, because I was not invested in any of their stories. We watched 2 of their parents die in front of them and I didn't care in the slightest. And when it all ended on a massive cliffhanger, I didn't care why April was in the Shadow King's body. At no point during the show was I sitting on the edge of my seat going, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? I feel like the concept of Class has promise. A bunch of kids in the Doctor Who universe. That is an interesting thing that I would like to watch. Basically a more mature Sarah Jane Adventures. But that's what they're missing. Someone like Sarah Jane or Jack in Torchwood. None of them have anything grounding them in the Doctor Who universe, except for the school. They needed someone with all the Who-universe knowledge, but they didn't. You're just a bunch of kids figuring it out clumsily. They had all these characters, and the most interesting one is Quill, who's not the main character. It's meant to be these children. How do you have 4 main characters, and none of them are in any way compelling? You can't show me 3 different romances, and all of them be insanely forced. I just expected more, because I love Sarah Jane Adventures. I love Torchwood. I mean, it had its moments, Torchwood. I could talk about some of the weird stuff that happened in that show, but overall, I want to go watch the next episode. At no point in this show did I care about any of these people, ever. Ram got his leg chopped off, didn't care. Quill almost got eaten by a dragon at one point. The only thing I thought, oh, that's going to make their life harder. Episode 3, Tanya almost got taken by an alien version of her dad, didn't care. I kept waiting to care about these characters. I got 8 episodes in, didn't care about any of them. The conversations in this show are very unnatural. In episode 2, Ram and Tanya start talking about grief, not how teenagers talk. It was so uncomfortable and rigid, and you could tell it was just to give information about Tanya's dad dying. So in episode 3, when he showed up, we all knew that he was dead. I do feel like shows should have youth consultants. You would think the worst thing possible to happen to one person would be their father driving them off a motorway with her and her mother in the car. But no, sharing a heart with an alien and slowly bonding with that creature and starting to gain shadow abilities. Then her friend has to shoot her and now she's in an alien body. What did April do to deserve this awful life she is living? What did she do in a a past life to get all this to her. Must have burnt down an orphanage or something. For some reason in the show, these people never run when there's imminent danger. They just kind of stare. Humans are meant to have a fight or flight response. These people have neither, other than Ram. Ram does both. He fighted the Shadow King when he killed his girlfriend, and he ran when his girlfriend randomly turned up in his room, even though she was dead. Correct responses from Ram. And you would think the alien prince, lone survivor of his species, would be one of the more interesting characters, but the only interesting thing about him is his attachment to Quill. Like, he didn't even have special abilities. I'm not saying that, actually I am saying aliens need to have special abilities. It's annoying when they're just basically humans that look slightly different. Have a special skill. He had nothing other than the Cabinet of Souls. My final thought about this show is Coal Hill Academy needs to be shut down. Why does anyone send their child there? That is all for this video. Goodbye.